delayed attacks, combos, AoEs, command grabs. Long ago, the four roll catches lived together in harmony, but then everything changed when the frame rates went to shit. On my first playthrough of Shadow of the Erdtree, I did not have fun with most of the boss fights. I either overleveled them with skibidi fragments and killed them on my first or second attempt, or I found them way too frustrating and just used Mimic Tear as the skip boss button. My breaking point was when I went through the DLC on my second character. I realized that I hadn't killed Moog yet on that character, so I went to fight him obviously. And then I realized that I had more fun fighting Moog again than every single combat encounter I just spent the last few days on. At that moment I was about to say fuck it and go play Sekiro, but then I realized I could do that in Elden Ring, so I decided on this playthrough I'd give it a Deflecting Hardtear a try. And with that decision, the whole game changed. Suddenly, attacks that I used to hate became immensely satisfying to deflect, bosses that I thought were way too fast became engaging and fun deflection puzzles. It just all made sense immediately. The bosses attack faster because they're meant to be blocked, not dodged, because the block has a faster recovery than a dodge. The moment that it all clicked, everything suddenly made sense in the universe. My third eye opened, my chakras started flowing. In that moment I felt like a god, but in a way that Radon and his femboy brother could never understand. The feeling of power I get from no-selling like 15 attacks in a row before slapping the boss with a gazillion poise damage is addicting. Block, block, block everything. Oh, you're fucked now, buddy. Hey Mikola, your brother's a bitch. Specifically my bitch. So is that it then? The Deflect tier kicks ass and now the DLC is saved and it's a flawless 10 out of 10 masterpiece? Is the video over? Unfortunately no. Sekiro Deflection can't fix the camera, the empty feeling worlds, the PvP balance, or the lore. And I also have some gripes with the mechanic itself. I don't like that it's a physic. I don't like that it's on a 5-minute timer. Which, to be fair, is more than enough for boss fights, but it makes it unusable in the open world against normal enemies. Now granted, it could be worse, at least it's not a great rune like they did with the Bloodborne rally mechanic, but I would prefer it as a talisman or a core mechanics update. As it is right now, it feels like I'm playing two different games entirely. One is like a Sekiro 2 boss fight game, and the other is a sequel to the boring parts of Elden Ring where you're just running around from one checkpoint to the next in the open world, occasionally picking up items. I also can't shake the feeling that I would be having way more fun with the deflect mechanic if I was using it on Dark Souls 3's boss instead. Elden Ring boss movesets are getting so hard to dodge that Radon created the Great Shield meta because so many people have just given up on trying to learn how to dodge these bosses, because they're so intentionally counterintuitive to roll catch you. Like yeah, sure, these movesets are for the most part fair and dodgeable, and when you do get good enough it's satisfying to weave in and out of danger, but the experience of actually learning some of these movesets is like cock and ball torture but without the cock and balls. Apparently everyone loved the Gideon fight so much that FromSoft decided we needed 7 more like him, including the second to last boss. And it's not just the dodging and healing that's an issue. I'm constantly looking at some of these movesets and thinking, when are Int and Fate builds supposed to reapply buffs? What's the point of having all these cool spells if none of the bosses will ever give you a safe window to cast them without getting hit? If every spell is gonna cost you health to cast in a boss fight, then don't make us sacrifice healing flats for FP. I was also a bit let down by the lore, which is the first time I've had this kind of complaint about a FromSoft game. Moog beating the allegations was nice, but for what might be the last bit of lore content we may ever see from this universe, there are way too many unanswered questions. People can't even agree on a basic timeline for this game. Too many lore threads were just dropped completely and there's way too much of a disconnect between the main game and the DLC. I'm not entirely sure how any normal player is supposed to understand anything when even the lore YouTubers are limited to speculation on so many parts of the lore. It feels like the only stuff an average player could figure out is the stuff that's just spoon-fed to you, like Marika's backstory with the jars. That said, I did do some tarnished archaeology of my own and I found out that it is in fact canon that my character fucked the cameraman's wife, because he's trying to kill me even more than the bosses. There's also the fact that despite taking 2 years to come out, there's just a level of jank in this DLC that makes it feel like it needed more time in the oven. Nothing game-breaking, but just a collection of silly mistakes that should have been caught in QA testing. Enemies randomly falling off a cliff and dying when they read their end. new weapons using outdated poise values, attacks that are basically undodgeable frame traps, and the new weapon classes have way too few weapons in them. And don't even get me started on how bad the balancing in the DLC is. I'm gonna put exactly as much effort into discussing the PvP as FromSoft did balancing it. Anyway, that's the end of this video. I don't know how to end a video like this, so I guess just try the deflecting tier. It's fun.